Movie review for 28 Days Later. Directed by Danny Boyle, written by Alex Garland, starring Cillian Murphy, Killian Murphy, I think is how you pronounce it actually. Who just won the Academy Award for Oppenheimer, so good for him. Been putting in years of good work, from this to Inception, to Nolan's Batman trilogy, many others, and Oppenheimer, obviously. So Nolan's a fan, obviously. So total respect to him. I've always liked him as an actor. Naomi Harris, Christopher Eccleston, um, Noah Huntley. So good cast. And the great Brendan Gleeson, of course. So 4 weeks after a mysterious, incurable virus spreads throughout the UK, a handful of survivors try to find sanctuary. If you could do me a favor and smash that like button, that'd be great. Really helps the channel, and on to the review. So I saw this back in the day, liked it instantly. Back then I wasn't really into zombie movies, really. Although some people say this isn't a zombie movie, but to me it is. Um, I mean, I like Dawn, the old Dawn of the Dead, stuff like that. But, um, I just don't find those zombies that threatening, I guess. They're much more threatening in this. They're fast, they're vicious, they're bloody. Kind of like the Dawn of the Dead remake, which I also really like. But so basically, Killian Murphy wakes up in London in a medical bed because he was like it's like a delivery driver or something, but with a bike, and he got hit by a car like maybe a week before this happened. So he was just sleeping. I guess they don't attack sleeping people. So luckily for him. And he wakes up and some beautiful shots of London, which I've been to London a couple times, and some beautiful shots of London that are empty, which is crazy to see because they're always busy. I actually lived in London for a couple months, so like 3 months, 3 to 4 months. Um, so I know this city pretty well. And yeah, some beautiful shots. It's just empty. He's walking around. And this is probably my favorite scene. I guess you'd call it a scene in the movie, just like the opening part of it. Because he doesn't have much information. The only information we have that he doesn't is that this virus was released because these, um, animal rights people broke into a lab and released these animals, which ended up killing them because they have the rage virus. They kill them, and they all get infected, and then they all start killing people. Um, Thought that was kind of funny. Like, was that like a knock against animal rights people? like they're so crazy that they would do this even though they were warned not to, and then to release a virus that kills most of humanity. But because some of them can get pretty crazy. I mean, like, I like animals too, but um, I wouldn't consider myself like an animal rights person. So I thought that was kind of funny, like a little knock on them. Because, I mean, we all want animals to be treated well, but some of them, they just go, I think, way too far and treat animals like people. But, anyways, that's a whole separate conversation. But, so yeah, and then he starts to get chased by some of the people that are infected by the rage virus. And luckily, he's saved by Naomi Harris and Noah Huntley, who's not in the movie that much, but and then it's explained to him what's going on. He then is kind of realized, oh, I have parents, and they're probably either gone or dead. And they go to his house in the middle of the day because he's like, we don't travel at night. Makes sense. And his parents are gone, let's say, and um and then in the middle of the night they get attacked by zombies. I'll just call them zombies. I know some people get angry about that. They're not zombies. Zombies are slow moving and all right. I mean, whatever. I don't really care. I mean, I play a lot of D&D and Dungeons and Dragons. The zombies are usually slow moving, but there are types that aren't. So sorry about that. I don't really care. But yeah, it's just a great movie. Very dark. I won't really get into what happened a few years ago with a certain virus, but there are some things that like when they're locked down and there's like no one on the streets and stuff like that. Kind of interesting connections, but won't really get into that. But um, you got a great script by Alex Garland. He's a really good writer. I'm a big fan of his movie Dread that he wrote. Danny Boyle's a good director. Apparently, a lot of this was just shot on like SD cameras. Like, I guess that means for 480p. Because he couldn't use film because he had to quickly get the shots up, shoot them, move, shoot them, have a bunch of cameras, bunch of angles. So, usually I wouldn't really like that because it's kind of low quality, but for some reason I think it works. I think it makes the movie work even better. I should look into the sequel if I think that's shot on film, right? So, which I don't hate the sequel. It has its moments in it. Jeremy Renner's in it. I think he's very good in it. Kind of playing a sniper, which is funny because he'd become a Hawkeye later. He's always just playing a sniper, but um, anyways, that movie's not directed by Danny Boyle, and I don't think it's written by Alex Garland. So, but let's see. Let's see if it is written by Alex Garland. No, no. Sunshine, which is a good movie too. Dread, Ex Machina, Annihilation, all good movies. But so so yeah, and then they end up kind of wandering around and they see that someone's alive. They have their lights up in an apartment that are blinking, kind of saying, "Come here." Brendan Gleeson and his daughter are there. Great scene with them going into the apartment. They're being chased by the zombies. Brendan Gleeson's in full like SWAT gear, and he and then he beats them back, kills them all, and then he goes and locks up his room, and they kind of sit down and have a drink and kind of just relax. I really like that scene too. Brendan Gleeson is such a good actor. He can be very intense, but a lot of warmth you feel come from him. Like the scenes with him and his daughter, I think are really well done. You could tell he really cares about her, and he tries to put a happy face on what's going on, even though he knows this is really bad. So, I mean, I don't really have any complaints with the actors. I mean, Naomi Harris has done a lot of good work. She's Money Punny in the whatever. Now there's a new James Bond. Apparently, they're gonna announce it pretty soon. So, but in that version of James Bond, and um, I'm not big on race swapping, but I think it works for that one. Definitely. Sometimes it does work. Sometimes it works really well. Like, Samuel Jackson Although I haven't read a lot of the comic books, so I don't know. But I mean, he works in those movies, you know. There's other instances of it too, but you just got to find the right actor for the right role, I think. And if you do like with the Money Punny, who yeah, in the older '60s and '70s and '80s and '90s was played by a white woman, I think it works, and she's I think a very good actress, very attractive, and and she holds her own in the fight scenes too, like a brutal scene where that guy Noah gets cut or bit. You're not really sure, but he's bleeding everywhere on his arm. He has rage virus blood all over him, you know, and then she just like turns on him instantly, pulls out a machete, chops him up. It's a like brutal, intense scene. And but yeah, and then they're in the apartment, and and then they leave. They go in the guy's he's a taxi driver, and then they go and get food. And there's this like a what would you call it? Like a radio broadcast by the part of the British military saying, you know, we have the cure, we have food and supplies and water, come here. So, and that's their goal, you know, throughout most of the until about the last act, beginning of the last act. And then they go there and everyone's dead, everyone's gone. It's a huge disappointment for Brendan Gleeson. And my one of my main criticisms with the movie is how he gets infected. I mean, I understand why they do it because they just want because at that point for the script he doesn't really have a use anymore because of what they're gonna do to his daughter and Naomi Watts or Naomi Harris. I get that it just feels kind of lazy. It's just like okay, he gets infected because there's like a bird biting at like a dead body that's hanging, and then he like kicks the pole, and then some of the rage blood goes in his eye, and he turns, and then all of a sudden these guys come out of nowhere, just kind of like what are they there the whole time? They're just watching, I guess. I mean it's obvious they're not infected, but then releasing gets infected, and they shoot a bunch of bullets at him, and he dies. So I've always thought that was cheap, and just kind of knocks the movie a little bit for me because he's so good in it, and he's like almost like a father figure kind of to Killian Murphy too, you know. I think he brings the warmth. I mean there's some warmth in the movie. Naomi Harris and Killian Murphy kind of have a romance going on, and Killian Murphy with Gleason's daughter. I'm trying to find her name. Megan Burns, I guess. Yeah. Okay. She's really good too, and but I just think after that the movie loses something, you know, for me. And I mean, I won't go through the whole plot, but basically they get then they're taken to this mansion out kind of in the countryside, run by Christopher Eccleston, who's like a major or something in the army, and our lieutenant, as they say in Britain. Um, and basically things aren't as they seem. These guys have nefarious reasons why they want to bring people there, particularly women, because it's a bunch of young guys. You know, he's like we have to offer them a future, which means you know there has to be children if this world's gonna survive, which you know is true, but morally very dubious, and that's kind of part of the theme in this movie is like the humans are becoming less human because of this rage virus. Even if you're not infected, it will make you do things that are morally dubious, and evil. So I really like that theme, and it's played through with Killian Murphy also, who ends up escaping there, and then he comes back with a vengeance, and it's almost like, is he infected by the rage virus? But he's not. He's just going in there, taking them out to rescue Hannah and Naomi Harris. Um, so I really like that scene. Very brutal, but as I said, I think that, and Roger Ebert agrees, the third act is the weakest part. So he gives it 3 out of 4 stars. And he basically says he really likes the movie, but yeah, he thinks that the third act is the weakest part. It kind of just ends in an action chase out, The ending is disappointing, an action shootout with characters chasing one another through the headquarters of a rogue army unit. But for most of the way, it's a great ride. I suppose movies like this have to end with the good and evil characters in a final struggle. The audience wouldn't stand for everybody being dead at the end, even though that's the story's logical outcome. Danny Boyle shoots on video to give his film an immediate documentary feel. Also, no doubt, to make it more affordable. A more expensive film would have a more standard action hero, less time to develop the quirky characters, spend enough money on this story, and it would have the depth of Armageddon. He gives Armageddon 1 out of 4 stars. Wow. I don't know, that movie's kind of fun. Alex Garland's screenplay develops characters who seem to have a reality apart from their role in the plot, whose personalities help decide what they do and why. So he says Jim is the everyman. But I won't go through the whole review, but it's a nice little review. He doesn't really like the ending. I mean, I'm okay with, like, there are some people alive, and then they see some people, in airplanes in the air and stuff. I mean, I don't know, it would just be so dark. And also, then they gotta set it up for the sequel. So, but the film was shot almost entirely in sequence. Only pickups and a few reshoots were shot out of sequence. Athletes were cast as the infected because of how important physically is to them. Danny Boyle felt that since athletes can do things that others can't, they would be interesting when translated into the movements of the infected. While the scene where Jim and Selena celebrate with Frank and Hannah were shot on September 11th, 2001. Wow. Danny Boyle said it felt extremely strange to shoot a celebratory scene on that particular day. Yeah, I think so. Alex Garland and Danny Boyle did a greater research into social unrest, drawing ideas from things that happened in Rwanda and Sierra Leone, such as piling of bodies inside of churches, but drew the line at using any actual footage of such incidents in the opening montage. All footage featuring dead bodies / desecrations of bodies were faked. One of the first mainstream films to be shot entirely digitally as opposed to with film. Horror novelist Stephen King bought out an entire showing of the film in New York City. The shot where Jim sees the dead mother holding onto her dead baby is based on a photograph Danny Boyle saw of a mass of Kurd bodies after they had been gassed. Wow. All the mansion scenes involved upstairs rooms were filmed downstairs because the mansion's owner lived upstairs. When Jim jumps through the window in the roof, he's actually jumping through a hole in the corridor upstairs down to the ground. So The shot of the notice board at Piccadilly Circus with the missing persons flyers caused some controversy when the film was first released. Some says it was insensitive to what happened to New Yorkers after 9/11 attacks. The film was shot prior to 9/11, although it was released afterwards. Danny Boyle said he based the shot on a photograph he saw from an earthquake in China. He also said that if he'd made the movie after the 9/11 attacks, he wouldn't have shot that scene. Stephen King is a huge fan of the movie and paraphrases one of Selena's lines in the novel Doctor Sleep. He needs us more than we need him. So, but yeah, like I said, I think the opening's the best part of the movie. Last act's a little weak, but still really good. Ebert 3 out of 4 stars. But overall, I really like the movie. I think it's very enjoyable. Sequel's not quite as good. I still think it's okay though. Especially that has a great opening too. Like really brutal when the guy and his wife and they're in that house and then they break in and the guy has to like decide to save his wife or not. That scene's incredibly intense. Um, but that movie has a third act problem too. But anyways, won't get into that. But yeah, check it out. 28 Days Later. My favorite movie from Danny Boyle, and well, pretty much a classic. So that's about it, and I'll see you next time.